Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the working session for Wednesday, October 22nd, 2025. On the working session discussion, number one starts out with the Barn Quilt Tour, and we have Miss Debbie Nearing-Barker here to present. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Here tonight to talk about the Barn Quilt Trail and to see if we can possibly paint some more. I did pass around the, so you knew what it was. It's a 3 millimeter aluminum composite, so you know what it is. It's more like a, if I can say, like a stop sign material. So that's what it's made out of. It's painted with, mostly we use satin paint interior, and then we seal it with a UV protection, so it doesn't mildew, doesn't fade or anything like that. So I've had mine up at my house here for 10 years, and it looks like I hung it yesterday, so it's pretty safe to hang. And they're light. The ones that are downtown are 2 feet by 2 feet, and they weigh about 2.5 pounds.
Okay.
So they're very light. So I also, in your packet, I put together maybe a proposal as to the designs we could use or the locations that might be able to, where they might be able to be located. And also, we can do them in sizes of 2 feet, 3 feet, and 4 feet. The one, Pete, that you got was
Is the
4 feet.
Yeah, 4 by
Yeah,
4
and
for
that's,
City Hall.
yeah, it's 4 feet by 4
Yep.
feet is pretty big. And like I said, the ones downtown are 2 feet by 2 feet. So I guess what I would look for tonight is where, if you have, where we could put them, and possibly what size.
Ms. Barker, as I look at your brochure, all of these
Yes.
done already?
Yes, those are all done. Those are all downtown.
Okay, right. Everyone is downtown.
Yes.
Even the bigger downtown Hibbing ones, the 4x4s?
The which one?
I think some of these are 4x4, are they not?
No, just the city was 4 by,
Okay.
and the one at the tourist center is also 4 by 4.
Okay, so the bigger, even though you show them larger here, those are still 2x2s?
Correct.
Okay, that's what I was questioning.
I'm sorry.
Yep.
Yes.
So what I hear you asking is you want to incorporate more within the community.
Correct. And I've listed some of the places that, are possibilities. And if you don't think they are, then we'll just cross them off and go somewhere else.
Mayor?
Yes.
Personally, I think to have one of
They're
these
beautiful.
at any location that is recognizable in Hibbing, I think is really cool. These are pretty nice addition to
Thank
the
you.
downtown area. I like looking at them when I drive. I will say they get distracting when I'm trying to look at all of them going down the street. But, I mean, personally, I would have no opposition to these going at all of our buildings and landmarks, so.
Okay. If they're located on a building, they can be screwed into the building with stainless steel screws. If they're just, say in a park,
Yeah,
then they should probably go on posts.
Yeah, be
metal, being anchored better. And those possibly could be a little bit bigger than a 2 by 2. 2 by 2 sounds big, but it's really
yeah.
like this big.
Just make a few comments here, I guess. As always, I think this is an amazing project. It just created a unique experience in our downtown that embraces our local art community and celebrates our rich history. I really want to thank Debbie for taking the leadership in the community and getting that done. Very important. The other thing is, I think looking at some of these suggestions, tying in some additional ones into places like the Hallrust Mine View, out at Cary Lake, Vic Power, Bennett Park, the dog park, golf course. Those are all places that we do have a lot of people at all the time and a lot of visitors. So I think that would be essential to tying it back in. So 100% support moving forward.
You know, I second your thoughts and comments, and, I mean, until you had brought this to my attention about 2 years ago, when you were really starting this, and not till I started traveling did I start looking for them, and realize they're everywhere.
They're everywhere.
Yeah.
They really
yeah.
are.
And it's kind of fun because you're looking for these types of things when you travel now. And it's nice to be a destination where I know the information get out to people while they come here. It basically takes you through your community if that's your interest.
Correct.
So it kind of gives you a blueprint of traveling through the city. But I really think they're fantastic. I see, you know, no problems myself as I look at, you know, the other areas that you're looking to add barn quilts. And I agree, size on some, the 4x4, I think would be more appropriate, or 3x3.
Yes.
On the signs downtown, the 2x2s, you know, are perfect.
Right.
So, you know, my feeling, if you're just looking for a suggestion or an okay to move forward, you know, we can't make an official decision in a working session, but you certainly can get feedback from the council right now on our thoughts,
Okay.
and I think it's been very, very, very positive. So,
Thank you. I-
Yeah, it's, you know, the designs are spectacular and the colors are vibrant.
Thank you.
So,
We've had a lot of fun doing it, and the artists are great about doing it. You know, we spent a lot of time. We probably, on the ones that are in the brochure, we put about 550 hours into the volunteer work, which is great, you know. I know there were a couple comments online about, you know, wonder how much they got paid. Well, we didn't get paid anything.
it's the love of what you're doing.
Yes, exactly. And I'm happy to announce that on Monday, our trail, which is the furthest north of central Minnesota, was put on the State of Minnesota Barn Quilt Trail.
Nice.
And 3 other Facebook pages for the Barn Quilt Trail too, so
That's awesome.
that'll bring more
Your
people in.
brochures, where are they located?
The Tourist Center, the Chamber, Red Rock Hotel,
Okay. You might
the
wanna
Bus Museum,
Okay, yeah, you might want to consider the Memorial Building,
okay?
because, you know, the nice thing about barn quilts, it doesn't matter if it's summer or winter. You can follow them.
Correct,
And,
yeah.
yeah, it's just a splash of color throughout the whole city. And I just love each one has a meaning, and so they're beautiful.
Thank you.
Counselors, any other comments based on the information that Debbie just provided to us regarding where else should be interested in putting additional barn quilts? And then what sizes are appropriate? I guess is that something we want to kind of talk about? Or let the artists
I
make that
would
decision?
trust the artists.
Okay,
That's, put them wherever you want to
Put 'em-
put them everywhere. Thank you.
Thank you.
yes.
They're awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time
bet.
tonight.
Just keep us informed, and keep adding to your brochure.
Adding
so.
to our brochure, okay. I'll keep you posted as to what we'll do next.
Yeah, that will be great, and we'll talk about
Yeah.
City Hall once we get into summer with the construction around here, where we would want to install the one that's in the office right now.
Sure.
so.
So if we could paint this winter yet, that would be
Yeah,
great.
yeah, absolutely, to get ready for spring.
Right, thank you very much.
You bet.
Thank you.
Thanks, Deb.
Okay, at that time, we'll now move on to budget updates. Ms. Mullner and Josie and Mr. Brzezinski. Yeah, that 1+, SB 1+ is really nice to hear,
Yes, it is.
but they give us the higher. Good evening, Josie.
Hello, Mayor. Let's see. We're good? All right. So, we're gonna talk about where we're at with our 2026 budget today. Our major changes currently, we increased the ambulance revenue about $50,000. Fire and police state aid also increased $53,000. Building permit revenue increased $75,000. Taconite production tax and municipal aid was reduced by $9,698. Personnel cost increased by $169,977. Minnesota paid leave tax rate was updated since we're using a third-party administrator, and it was reduced by $51,237. Insurance increased by $182,241, mainly from increasing, we originally budgeted 13% for medical and 3% for dental, and that was updated to 20.9% and 5% for dental. And then we had some individuals that updated their insurance elections. Repair and maintenance, parts and labor, small tools and equipment, professional services, travel, training, were adjusted and reduced by $54,700. The animal shelter budget was adjusted back to the budgeted amount for 2025, which was $102,000, which the bottom line, it reduced about $60,220. We added the transfer from, or a transfer from the racetrack fund to try to not levy for the operating expenses of the racetracks for this year, so we can use some of the money that's still left over from St. Louis County. We reduced the debt service levy by $229,226. We were removing the new issuance costs since we'll only be making interest payments, and this will be covered by the local sales tax. Reduced capital fund levy by $232,895, and that's including the park skid steer, the PD squad. We adjusted the ambulance purchase, and then we're using mining effects for the entirety of the cost of the life safety systems at the Memorial Building. And we also reduced the BNSF crossing project by $100,000. So after all those changes, our bottom line is now 4.93 from our original 9.99, mainly all coming from the general fund, the debt levy, permanent improvement, and the capital fund. So projecting out to 2026 and 2028, originally in 2025 we had an increase of 3.91%. 2026 we currently are at 4.93. If we leave everything status quo and pretty much adjust everything by an estimated cost of how much each department is increasing, we're looking at 2027 and 2028 to be at over 12%. So with that being said, here's the justification for that. The revenues are increasing 1 to 2% versus our operating expenses increasing approximately 5% year over year. The Public Safety Officer Benefit Program is soon to run out of funds, and that's approximately $250,000 of our revenue. Library revenues are now covering budgeted expenses, so currently we have $811,443 of revenue versus $952,495 in expenses, and this is already including our transfer out of the general fund of $200,000 and the minimum maintenance levy of $586,000. for a total levy of $786,043. OPEB is currently not being levied, plus we're using some of those funds to help offset retiree insurance costs. The St. Louis County money for the racetrack of $250,000 is soon to run out, so we'll be starting to levy approximately $30,000 for operating expenses moving forward, plus we'll be responsible for $10,000 in capital improvements per our agreement. And then the public safety building debt will be starting to be levied approximately in 2028, which will be an estimated increase of $382,095 from 2027's estimated debt levy. Any questions so far?
The PSP, Public Safety Building debt to be levied, can you do a little more detail on the number that you had up there? That's based above and beyond, is that due to the additional work we're doing on the existing public safety building, or? Public Works Building, because I know there's an additional funding to bring everything up to status quo. Is that
Shane,
what
if you
leads
wanna
to
chime
that?
in on-
No, Mayor, so this is actually for the gap of the actual public safety center. So right now, we have approved the bond sale for the 19.6 million per
Yeah.
the legislation. We've still been trying to seek some outside funding to try to fill the
Yeah.
gap. But if we don't fill the full gap, then that would be where we'd be looking at the CIP bonds, which would
Okay.
be supported with levy. And then with that levy being about $500 and so thousand, I think it was between 5 and 600.
Yeah,
We do have some debt dropping off in 2028, but it won't be enough to offset the increase.
Okay.
So that's where Josie's coming up with that 300 and some thousand that we would have to levy to support that debt service.
Okay.
any other questions?
I like what you've done this year, as far as how you managed to bring us from about 10 down to 4.9, 4.98.
Yeah,
So and we don't know if, of any other revenues that might be coming in. We don't know if, LGA, we don't really know where LGA is gonna be until they
Yeah, LGA increased like 0.1%
Yeah,
for this
it
year. We
was-
got $20,000 increase for
Right,
2026.
yeah.
So that's really not, our expenses are increasing at a higher rate than our revenues.
Yeah.
So, and we have, like, in this slide, we have multiple revenue sources that, like, racetrack, St. Louis County money will be reducing, so that money will be depleted. Our public safety officer benefit program eventually will run out of money, and that's $250,000 of revenue, which is about just over 2%. So.
Just
we'll
to add
be-
on that, Mayor, so back when we had the session, I think it was 23, when we had a state surplus, they funded that public safety benefit reimbursement fund
Right.
at a larger level, anticipating that it would run out in a few years. So unless the state refunds the program, we used to receive offsetting revenues of about 12 to 15,000 a year, and we've been seeing 250,000 a year.
Yeah,
So trying to make up that difference is what Josie's trying to talk about with the future budgets if they don't replenish that fund.
well, I don't know, I think this is the first time I've ever seen the projection out that far, which I think is really nice to see. Because you know what we'll be planning for moving to the future.
Mhm.
And certainly trying to build a tax base and improve our revenue, is a very important component of what we need to do as a city, so.
Mhm.
Yes,
I'll go before you. as well.
Go ahead.
Mr. Krasinski?
So, we did decide to do that, that's a little bit of a nuanced change.
Yep.
What does this do for the next 2 or 3 years out? Because that's the piece we talked about, but I think it kind of got lost in some of the other conversation. You know, when you squeeze your budget down too far, then you have like this big jump because you're trying to get caught up. So that's what that was trying to do, so thank you for bringing that up.
yeah. So I had a couple of questions. I'm curious, Sheena, you said that we're not currently levying for OPEB, but how far, are we funding the OPEB at all, or are we just not levying for it? And how long can we do that before we're in a bad situation?
So Counselor Bayless, our OPEB liability is about 30 million. We currently have about a third of that funded. We historically have been levying about $300,000 or so per year and just putting it into that fund, but then we would actually pay for the OPEB cost on a pay-as-you-go basis. So this year, as we're starting to see increased costs and decreased revenues, we looked at the fact that we've been getting a good return on our investments in the OPEB fund and utilizing not even a full year's worth of interest just to help reduce some of that levy. And then we're not levying the $300,000 because we need the money elsewhere. We're gonna try to strategize that and make sure we don't wanna deplete that amount. As we look at things like even our rating that we got from S&P Global, they do look at that OPEB liability as a large chunk on the books that you need to be looking at funding and making sure you have a plan. So
But
I
right now
don't
it's
want to
funding
deplete,
itself.
right, so I don't want to deplete that, but we also want to strategize where we don't just keep accumulating money and then never, ever use it and just keep paying as you go.
Okay, and then the other thing is, I don't wanna put the cart in front of the horse, but I know earlier in our regular meeting, we approved the attorney to talk about this transmission line thing, and that's opportunity for other revenue in the future. I don't know how far out we're gonna forecast that,
Yeah.
but, I mean, that's gonna be one thing that can help solve a large problem. And the other thing is we talked at one point about payment in lieu of taxes from the utility we have to look at those options. We can't fund everything we're funding at this rate for another 2 years, so,
Well, and the hope is if MISO is paying some of that
yeah.
bill, then that comes onto the city side as well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that makes a lot of
Yeah,
sense.
I agree. So that's good work, though, I guess is what I'm getting at, and hopefully that works out well, revenue-wise.
Sheena, the thing I want to add to your comments regarding OPEB is we, when you've worked with our financial consultants, they basically have said you are funded very well for the position we are as a city. So they're the ones that said really, you don't have to add in at this time because you're sitting in a really good situation.
Yeah, so.
I just want people to understand, that's the recommendation from our advisors, that we've done a great job. You can add time, you can at times not add to that for the reasons that you just commented on, so.
Yeah, that's what ABDO pretty much had said is, yeah, that's a large liability, but it's not a liability you're gonna be paying back in 1 year.
Right.
So you have to look at, keeping it funded or having a funding source there, but also she looked at the whole financial management plan she was helping us draft and we're still working on together. And within that plan, she looked at the whole city and all the needs that we have financially and not just OPEB. So that's where she had recommended that we look at using some of the funds or offsetting it if needed, but continue to maintain a fund balance. And
I have a question for Sheena. So you said the city has a $30 million liability, OPEB liability. But is that number really going up at this point in time, or is that number starting to drop off because people are either they're deceased and or there's employees now who don't get the same benefits when they retire as people who currently?
the liability has fluctuated a little bit. It hasn't been much year over year. It all depends on the actuaries. And so they'll do different things where they, 1 year to the next, they might change the life expectancy, or they might change something in their formula, and then it'll just change our liability based off of that. The people that are actively working currently that are due a benefit are accruing a liability as they work, but anybody beyond 2007 doesn't get health insurance in retirement. So eventually, everybody that's owed a benefit will retire, and then they'll be collecting, and then that amount should continue to decrease at that point. And then when people turn 65 too, the cost significantly decreases because they go on Medicare, and then the supplement plan is much cheaper than the VBA.
Any other questions for Josie or Sheena? Yes.
I just had a quick question. When we're looking at the racetrack, one of the 10K and the operating expenses, what was the, in the agreement we have with that, at some point, do we start getting some funding back from ticket sales?
Yeah, if I remember correctly, yeah, so years 1 and 2, it's basically net zero. Year 3, 4, 5, and assuming that we renew, then we start to collect some revenue on it.
Mm-hmm.
So remember, it was, the rationale behind it was, you're setting up another business, so you try to get that set up, eliminate as many costs as you can, get it rolling, and then hopefully, long-term, it can sustain itself.
Okay, so I guess that was more of my question is, a couple years of having to find some funding, but then in the future, there might be some opportunity to not have to find as much funding.
That's the hope.
Perfect.
I would like to guarantee it, but I won't. How's that?
Right. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I can
Thank you
move
for your
on.
presentation.
Not
She has
done
a
yet.
few more slides.
Nice try.
I still gotta bring up our options.
All right, sorry about
So
that.
I had brought forth 3 different options. So option 1 would remove, so both option 1 and 2 would remove Old Highway 169 from Pinter to Marksmanship Road from the permanent improvement levy, and it would reduce $190,000. It would also reduce the airport levy by $21,000. The difference being option one would add Vic Power parking lot rehab of $375,000. And option two, we learned recently that the future rec center pre-design project, originally we budgeted for the feasibility study at 50,000, and the feasibility study came back at 78,000, and the remainder is the schematic design. So we could add that, and the increase to the levy would be 6.37 with option one, or 6.18 with option two. Or option three, we would remove Old Highway 169 and add the PD squad of 60,000 back to capital, and add Bennett Park parking lot rehab for the bocce court at 50,000, horseshoe court at 125K, and softball at 50K into capital. And that would increase the levy 5 to 5.77 from our current 4.93. And just to show the effects of what those numbers do. So option one, we had said reduce 190,000 and the airport levy, plus adding the $375,000 for the parking lot. That would at least alleviate a little bit for future years. You can see the 2027 amounts move back a little bit, but it just goes to show the more we do in one year, it helps lessen the stress for the following years at the bottom line levy. So option two would reduce. And then 403. So that's our 6.18. And then 1205 and 1222 for 2027 and 2028. Or
So the 4.193 is not taking into account any of these three options.
That's
yes.
correct.
These were all removed,
Yeah,
Mhm.
so,
and if you want to put them back in, is what you're saying.
Yeah, so our point in bringing those options is if we try to do a little bit more now, it alleviates the following year's levy a little bit more.
so remember the rationale was get down to 5% or so. But we also want to make sure it's very clear what we're giving up if we drive that number down, so there's been a couple of pages of that. But also, in the context of the 27, 28 budget, what does a 5% year-over-year budget for 26 look like for
Mhm.
27, 28? So that's what we're trying to do, is just kind of demonstrate what it looks like if we do 5%, 5.7 or 6% or whatever it was, just to kind of give you some context to what we're looking at, because we're really anticipating this time next year is going to be even more challenging than what we have currently. So we're trying to move the community forward, trying to be gentle on our taxpayers, look through their lens, make sure that we're considering what the county's doing, the school board, and all these different factors. In addition to that, we thought it would be helpful if we had some live scenarios that you can just kind of punch in a couple numbers and see what the impact is for 26, 7, and 8, so.
Yeah, I mean, even just to throw in as an example, not to say we're doing this, but say we increased everything currently $400,000 and did 8.45 as our 2026 budget. You can see for 2027, it would be 11.86%. Ron, can you put, thank you. You can see for 2027 and 2028, it would alleviate a little bit more the burden of how much costs would increase.
Mayor?
Yeah.
So for looking at the paving or the capital improvement, permanent improvement, so we could move Old 169 to 2027. We are doing all of Spudville Road next year.
Yep.
The rest of 23rd Street. We have, I believe, 6 alleys budgeted in there, our sidewalk program, and then we are working with HPU in the Greenhaven area, doing total street reconstruction. So
Okay.
we are doing
A
a
lot.
lot of construction
Yeah,
next year
yeah, I-
with the old 169.
Yeah.
The question I have maybe for Nick is, with the rec center, potential rec center study, was one of those sites at Vic Power? And if it was, I don't think we should pave those parking lots in Vic Power if we do the rec center study and it shows that, you know what I mean? They need a lot of work,
Yeah.
but I'd hate to do those parking lots out there if potentially there's a rec center there in the future and we gotta redo it.
Yeah.
So,
No, I understand what you're saying.
but the ones at Bennett Park, the softball field,
Yeah.
we have to pave that.
By the horseshoe court there.
Yep.
Yeah.
That one, the one on the west side, that'd be the bocce, we could do a seal coat on that.
Yeah, that
That's
would
not
just be a
that
seal
bad.
coat. That's a pretty good base when
Yeah.
we did that. That was a complete rebuild too
Yeah.
with great so.
Yep, so
So
we
base.
would have to do the softball parking lot for sure next year.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to give a little bit of background on the construction and why, Old 169 is potentially pulled out of there. We are
Yeah.
doing a lot of construction next year
Right.
without it.
Go ahead.
I was just saying, looking at these 3 options, each one includes that old 169 section. But they all include also an increase. So like if we look at option 3, is there an opportunity to say, let's not do the 169, let's push that off 1 year, and let's get some of these projects done, but still come in at the same amount we're coming in right now? So, I'm not
Counselor
saying we
Fossil, are
cut
you
the,
saying-
I'm not saying we cut the police squad and the bocce court, but figure out a way to stay right at the same number. Because all of these options, yeah, because all the options, all of the options you gave say, let's not do 169, and let's raise the amount, instead of saying, let's not do 169, instead we can get these 3 projects marked off the list and still be at the same amount.
So you're saying spend 190 because we're removing 190?
Or spend 200. I would say you could go up. But I didn't do all the numbers, but.
So if you were to take off of that option 3, if you took the PD squad off, what's that doing to the numbers? That bringing it close to 5?
So let's say, what's our scenario? 190,000, we remove Highway 169, we don't do the PD squad, because that's already excluded.
And I think you could just do the softball horseshoe parking lot, next year.
Yeah, the horseshoe
And not the-
softball parking
yeah,
lot,
Not the
yeah.
bocce, we wouldn't have to do the bocce
No,
rehab next year.
you could bypass the bocce rehab.
And I think the bocce was the 50,000, so then that would be
Yeah, that was 50.
175,000. So we'd still do the horseshoe court and softball.
They're connected.
Okay,
They're one and the same,
so.
or joint.
If we reduced it by 190,000 and then only did that, that would reduce it further? Because we're not doing the PD squad, because that would bring it to 533.
I guess my quick math is saying the old 169 is 190K. If we did just the horseshoe and the softball, that's 175.
Yep.
So 15,000 difference. Maybe we buy the squad too, right? 60,000 minus 15. So we'd have another.
45.
Steve's not here, so we don't need that squad.
Right. I feel bad, right? Like,
He does want it.
Well, I guess, and we can kind of move things around because there are more than an abundance of projects to
Right.
select from. So it's just a matter of which bottom line number are you more comfortable with?
So I'll just give a basic opinion on that. In my opinion, I appreciate trying to get more done. I think the optics of a number that is starting with a 6 is tougher than the 5, right? So in my opinion, just me, anything under 6 is fine. Let's get as much done as we can. If we had to, I mean, even if we had to bleed into 6 to get some really important stuff done, we're kicking the can. I mean, if we don't do it this year, we gotta fit it in there next year.
Yeah.
So like,
Where do our deferred maintenance costs come in from, like, the city hall? You don't have to turn your mic on and answer if you don't want.
yes, you do.
Nick, do you have a good question, a good answer?
I was gonna say, should we bring Nick?
It's a great response.
It's a great question. I mean, and that's the dilemma. What are the priorities? Remember, for City Hall, the strategy, get the building dried in, great idea, and then get the windows done, because that's part of the envelope, and there's a certain amount of a payback there. It's a long way of saying, once we get those couple of items done, we're gonna probably come back with, okay, here's where we're at. We'll continue to shuffle all of the projects and the deferred maintenance and things that need to be done, reprioritize, and then we'll keep tackling. I mean, I know that's not a great answer, but that's really what we're doing.
Well, I think, you know, the envelope, great question, Counselor. I mean, we've done the roof, we've done the HVAC, our terracotta, which was our biggest issue. It was more terracotta than the roof. If the windows get done, we're doing the envelope of this building, which has to be our primary purpose. And it sounds like we have a pathway forward for the windows. So then, as you just mentioned, now you reprioritize where do we want to do next. And but I think our first effort on this building has been outstanding and much needed. Yeah.
Right, and to piggyback on that is, when the Senate and the House were both here for the bonding tour, they were just amazed at our city hall, correct?
Yeah.
And our memorial arena, and so to me, those are two of the high priorities still, is city hall and the memorial arena.
From buildings.
Yes, for buildings, yeah. So, thank you.
So what are you looking for tonight, Greg? I mean, what do you want? You want a decision, or do we want to discuss this at our next meeting? What's our time frame that Josie, you just mentioned you were going to be reworking a few things. I think you just said that.
Well, and I think the best thing we could do is maybe set a ceiling of
Yeah.
what is our max that we would be comfortable
Yeah.
setting the final budget at. And then we can kind of tinker around, see what makes more sense to do as projects together, and then come up with a number in the next meeting.
Did we have an amount, so like 0.1% is equal to a rough amount?
A levy you're talking
Yeah.
about, one levy.
So
Yeah.
I think each levy was about 113,000, so every percent was 113,000. Very, very specific. I think every .01 is $1,000. Yes. So
So levy
$1,000
is
is
113 or
0.01%.
130?
113.
113, yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
All right.
So, Mr. Mayor, to answer your question, I think the first thing is comfort level on major changes.
Yep.
Do you agree, disagree? If you don't agree, how strongly do you disagree? And if you do disagree, what then would be your suggestion or recommendation for changes? And then the next question would be, and we kind of were just talking about that, year over year percentage, what's the level? Councilor Bayless, we heard from you, somewhere between 5 and 6 is what I heard.
Yeah, I mean, I can defend 6 if I have to, but 5 is
Based on
preferred.
projects
5 is preferred,
and
yeah.
need, is what I heard you say.
Yep.
So feedback on that, assuming we get some of that feedback, I think what we'll do is we'll come back at the next meeting, and here's what we're gonna present to you on the 3rd of December as our final budget and levy, and then we'll have you consider and take action.
Yes, Counselor.
Oh, I just had 2 quick questions. For the railroad crossing project, are we just reducing the number we're doing for next year?
Counselor, so that was, the crossing going into Kelly Lake, Rainy Road. There's 2 crossings side by side. So looking at the budget, looking at our permanent improvements, we have, I think, 4 other crossings where it's one crossing in town. So we're just gonna switch gears and do a different one
Okay,
with Burlington Northern.
all right. And then my other question is, again, back to that police squad. Where does that put us? Are we gonna be sitting on some older squads that need more repair, or are we still in a good spot?
That's a great question. I have the same question. I haven't had a chance to follow up on it.
Okay.
So, my recollection, we have upgraded our squad fleet substantially. I just don't know where we're at on the cycle. So my apologies for not having that answer for you.
Other than that, I think most of those major changes look fine.
You gave us great information to think about right now and giving us some options from your perspective, so.
I do have one other thing that I wanted to interject into the conversation before we wrap up. Jesse had mentioned the rec center, and remember that study had a couple of possible locations, one of which was out at the ball fields. Kind of in that same vein, how serious are we about moving that forward? And I ask because we have interviews for the next phase, which would be feasibility study and
Schematic design, right? Schematic design?
schematic design, thank you.
Are we budgeted for that, Craig?
Remind me, is that?
No, that's not currently in the budget, so that's option 1, of reducing the, Old Highway 169, the airport levy of $21,000, and then, adding that, option 2, I'm sorry,
Yeah, it was like
adding $403,000, which would put our levy to 6.18 if we just decided to do that project.
That was one of our highest rated in our community input meetings. That was one of the highest rated concerns or interests by our residents. So I'm not saying yes or no, but I know it rated very high.
Mayor, we did have 50,000 in the proposed budget for our preliminary.
Yeah.
But then when the numbers came back in, Nick said that the feasibility was increasing to 78,000, and then the additional that brings it to over 400 is because of the schematic design. So I think that's where it had increased from what we had in the preliminary.
So no architectural firm has been selected, correct? That's what,
We have interviews next week.
you have interviews for not only for schematic design and
Feasibility.
feasibility. All right.
And that's the question, right? Is it a high enough priority where we go ahead, do those interviews, get to the point where we can make a selection, but also then if we do that, how much money will be in the budget for the 26?
I might have a lot of questions about that.
Yeah, I think it's just another discussion.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I do too.
I do too. I'd like to know more about what the like presumption is that we're gonna do. Are we gonna own and operate? Are we gonna look for
Right,
a YMCA to come in and do programming? Like what are,
Yeah.
I don't know that we've,
right.
So maybe a little update on that?
I'd like that,
Yes.
yeah.
Okay.
But I'd also, I mean, I don't think we got the Terry Lake campground, right? I wouldn't mind finishing something before we move on to another big project, but that's just me.
Here.
And everything I've heard about, I know Chisholm's most campgrounds I've heard are revenue producers. Chisholm does really well with theirs, so.
And how short are we on that still? $1 million?
I think it was,
$1 billion?
That 1.2.
1.2.
So give us the option 4 next meeting.
Right. Because we did prioritize at one time, those projects, to bring them back forward again and see where we are.
So I want to make sure that we make really good use of our time between now and the next meeting.
Yep.
What I'm hearing is the summary that we just delivered, we're okay with that. We want an update on the recreation center, but it might make more sense if option 1, 2, or 3 is no on the feasibility and schematic, yes on the Cary Lake Campground completion. Is that what I heard?
As an option,
Right,
yes.
that's right.
I think that's what
It's
was said.
confusing, but you're being accurate, yes. That's
Right.
what you heard.
Well, I'm confused, that's why it sounds
There's
confusing.
Exactly what you heard, yeah.
So I think that's what they're doing,
Yes.
but as an option. Okay,
Yes, yeah.
so clean up the options and include
Yeah.
Cary Lake in there.
What I kind of heard was people want to finish something we've already been working on and invested. That doesn't mean you don't plan for another project.
Yeah.
But it don't go to the next phase until the one that we're working on right now
Okay,
is completed.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it, right? Like,
Okay.
we still want to move forward with the rec center, right?
Okay.
Our community center.
Yep.
And then in
Nick?
terms of, oh, I'm sorry.
go ahead.
In terms of a bottom line levy, we can defend a 6.5, but we would prefer to stay under 6.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, personally, I'd say stay under, but use all of the 5%.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
Wrote that down last time.
I concur. I think, you know, as we look to the future, we can't lower ours too low. If we can knock one or two things out this year and still keep it low to help next year's, I think that is the 100% the way we should be going.
On the upside, we shouldn't need many vehicles for Jesse's end of the bargain there. I feel like we've purchased more vehicles than I've ever heard of in the last couple of years, so we should be good, lots of money savings.
Let's round table. We'll move to round table.
one thing from my office, snowmobile trails in Hibbing. Everybody's aware that we've got some trails. We would like to formalize our permission to the Path Blazers Snowmobile Club through an agreement, defining, you know, land descriptions, blah, blah, blah. I'm not gonna bring it back to workshop. I think it's a pretty standard thing. I just wanted to touch on it. If you want me to workshop it, I will. Otherwise, it'll be on the agenda. That's all I have. Thank you.
Candy?
Quickly, I just want to update you. We did have another interview with Range Regional Animal Rescue. We had a few questions for them. We, at this point, have been still bringing animals in for the intake. In the last 2 weeks, we've really exploded on cats and kittens, which has been a problem. But they also have adopted quite a few out, so that has been a godsend. We also have been taking animals up to Ely, which they're free. They're going through the tech school up there, and they get spay neutered and a full,
Bevan?
yeah, they get the whole gamut of tests and everything, so at least they're healthy. But at this point, we have a few questions left for Range Regional, and we'll let you know where we're at with that once we finish that up.
Very good. Mr. Bayless?
And just a quick thank you to everybody that was at the meeting last Tuesday. I know that wasn't exactly the most pleasant meeting at all times, but I think it was impactful and effective, so thank you to the council for being there and just working through some of the
Yeah.
issues, so,
It's good conversation.
yeah, it was great.
Should schedule another one.
I'm all about it.
Mr.
Do it-
Fossil.
Do it every week.
I did have one question, and it was just a quick thought. I have a couple things, but during the property value taxation that we did earlier this spring, the meeting we had here, and I forget what that board was called,
Board of Review?
Board of Review, there was a property out on 19th Avenue that was blighted, which resulted in the neighbor's property value being reduced. Have we taken action on that blighted property?
Do you know the address of it?
No.
Okay.
Love garbage.
Yeah, I believe
Yeah.
there was a house that had burnt down,
Okay.
and then they had moved away, so what was left was a falling apart garage and a falling apart carport.
I can check with,
I did just drive by there, it's all still.
I can check with Tyler.
Just something I think that we should take into consideration before the next year's round comes through.
Thank you.
And then, and I think I shared this with you, but there was an article about some cities and organizations that the DNR had overpaid, that had gotten some bills from the DNR, And then really small print in the article listed Hibbing as being underpaid, in which case we should be getting some funding back for that.
We did.
We did, right. Could there be some clarification on that?
Yes, Counselor Fausto, I actually had it in my packet to talk about as well, but in the back of that, I had the letter. I just haven't had a ton of time to look into it, because when I read the letter, I was under the impression that we would be getting a reduced payment or none at all, because of the fact that it says that cities and counties were overpaid and that the school fund received too little of money, and to anticipate that your funding would be reduced. But then after speaking with Mayor Hyduk and then looking at our EFT, I saw we had received $400,000. So then I was gonna reach out to the DNR. I just haven't had a chance yet to see if that is in fact our money and that we do not have to pay any of that back. Based off the miscalculations that they've had with their formulas, I didn't wanna look at using that for anything else until I made sure it was.
The letter was, the letter was,
7% of our levy.
the letter was hard to understand. The way it was
It was.
written was really interesting. So that's
It-
why I
it was
reached
con-
out
it was confusing.
and asked that question, because it was asked of me.
I think the most important thing is that we don't have to pay money back. That's the good
Right.
part, right?
Well,
Right.
we hope we don't know that.
We're hoping that's the case.
Right.
So, I mean, thank you for bringing it up, and I know that I was a little bit slow to respond. Actually, I haven't actually formally responded to the city council. People are finding out about it in the newspaper and all of these articles. We didn't even really kind of know what was happening. I mean, I think they put that money in our account and there was no explanation. It's very unsettling, as I guess what I'm trying to say. So we're trying to figure that out. Hopefully it's a windfall, but we'll see.
Not gonna spend it quite yet. Yeah.
I'm not worried about spending it. I think we could find things. And then just, one other thing, I got an email about our ordinances on our website not being updated. And I don't know if they are or not, but I feel like it shouldn't be that difficult to get them updated. So do we have a project that's going on here, or do we know when that'll be?
I can actually answer that. So I've been dealing with Civic Plus for codification, and so we just have, it was supposed to be in the budget for it, so we're hoping by the beginning of 2026, we can get that all mapped out.
So does it have to be a map, or can we just have like a PDF of our ordinances that's shared?
The problem with the PDF is they do change, and in order to, like, make sure that we have the current ones, you have to split them all out. So with this program, you put them in under the number of the ordinance.
Right,
It's not a PDF,
right.
yeah.
I know how it should work, but I'm saying like in the interim, can we
Yeah.
just have an available PDF?
Well,
Any
we,
ordinances that have been updated over the
Yeah.
last?
we actually have, every department has books, and they get updated as far as when Andy Borland's office sends them to us. So if they wanted to come now, I mean, they can request, the person that you're or just talking about. Yes, okay. Yes, we can put a hard copy on the website. It's just we're not there yet, but yes, we'll get that on there. Yep.
Thank you.
Mhm.
The last thing I had, which isn't very important, but downtown snow removal on the sidewalks, it didn't seem to be a super big vocal issue last year. But I just want to make sure that, that we're aware that season's coming, and it might be a snowy winter, so.
Sorry, what now?
Snow removal on downtown sidewalks.
Oh, sidewalks.
That's all I got.
Okay.
Mr. Schreiber, I'm good?
I'm good.
I'm good. Just quick, 23rd Street, center striping, parking lane striping is done. We'll paint the yellow curbs once it stops raining. Stop signs should all be up. We can't put the street signs up until the light poles are up. Light poles, the last I heard was October 29th, they're gonna be.
That's later than, did Luke say October 29th today, or did he say it would be later than that?
You said later.
Later
Well,
than that, it's probably gonna be a week after that.
there's a potential before Halloween, but not likely. 'Cause
Okay,
I
yeah,
think,
you just touched base today with the people that are putting that up. that contractor said it's not gonna be the 29th.
Okay.
Okay?
Has there always been a light on the White House that's at the four-way stop by the Memorial Arena in Mars?
No, the lights are not where they were. On the
Is it-
intersections there are, but there's some mid-block lights.
Yeah, and it
And
looks
then
like
there were
it's
some
right
ones
in
we
their yard.
deleted.
It looks right in our yard, isn't it?
Security.
I know we reviewed the lights out there a dozen times and blocked it a bunch of times, so where the lights are should be correct.
Okay,
Yes,
okay, very good. Yes, security, that's right.
that's all I.
Sheena?
Mayor, I had handed out everybody just a small packet that I paper clipped together of things I just wanted to touch on. The first one is the S&P Global rating. I think Greg had sent out an email to the council. This is the final version that went with our bond offering. I know Nick and Hut from Allers touched a little bit on it tonight, that the city did receive our geo debt rating is affirmed at AA stable for all of our existing debt. And then also these new temporary sales tax revenue bonds got the highest possible rating of SP1+. I want to touch on that, and then I also just wanted to draw your attention to page 3, which is the outlook, and that shows you the downside scenario and the upside scenario of what would potentially increase our rating, and then what would also potentially decrease it. One being that if we start to materially reserve or decline our reserve balances, they would look at possibly saying that we don't have the ability to pay like we did before. And then also having too much possible future borrowing would show them that we have sustained increases in our fixed costs, and then that with our debt and liability profile increasing, that could potentially have a downside as well. I just wanted to make sure that you're aware that that's just where we're at. We're still at the AA stable, so that is good news.
They did a great job of explaining both scenarios. When I read the report the first time, I know they adjusted this a little. Yeah, it was a great report, very defined. Thank you.
And then the second thing is I had handed out, it says investments in arbitrage, and it was prepared by Ellers. That's the company that Nick was here from. So with this $20 million worth of debt, well, one, it's a very large amount, and then there's also a lot of rules when it comes to the IRS rules with tax-exempt financing. Things like arbitrage, meaning that you can't earn interest above a certain yield, or you'd have to rebate that back to the IRS. You also have to spend the bond proceeds with a certain timeline from when the money comes in. You have an 18-month spend and then a 24-month spend and things like that. I'm recommending, if City Council, if I have your support, would be to have them monitor the bond proceeds for these different scenarios. Their fee is 0.15% of whatever the declining balance is of the bond proceeds. So they're estimating, based off of the construction schedule that I had gotten from Adolphson and Peterson, that it would be about $6,206 for their services. And then they would be making sure that, one, we invest it to the ability we can, because we still want to get all the interest we can get with the yield that's allowed, but then also making sure that we are spending it within the timeline, and if we did have any arbitrage, that we would rebate
Is
it
that
back.
yearly, or what is your 6,000 based on?
That's what they're estimating for the whole construction schedule. The total cost
Okay,
would be
all right.
6,000.
That's pretty reasonable to take on that responsibility.
Yep.
Okay,
So that I would bring forward if that's okay. And then the last was the letter that Counselor Fossil just touched base on. I just want to let you know that I will be trying to reach out to the DNR to follow up,
Yeah.
make sure the 400,000 was an accurate calculation.
yeah, and when they had reached out to me, and then I reached out to you, and when I first heard about it, and then, then I read that letter, and it's not plain and straightforward, so.
Yep.
Very good. Mr. Borland?
City staff had asked me to craft a new ordinance with regard to the library under the concept of phasing the 7-person board back to a 5-person board, but we would be doing that in increments, reducing it by 1 person starting January 1st of 2026, and then down to 5 by January 1st of 2027. If the council's comfortable with that, we would post for that and have it for your consideration at a subsequent meeting. It has to be posted for at least 10 days. So
Yeah, I would say-
then that was, Candy had gotten some feedback, and I think Greg had shared, so
Yep.
I have crafted it. I think they have a draft of it, so we would go ahead and post that if that's what you're comfortable with
Yeah.
doing.
5 is a good size board.
The only other comment I would make is, I also represent a city that was on the wrong side of that letter, and in Itasca County, and they were told, yeah, well, sorry, you just need to pay it back right away, is essentially the answer they got. And they're way smaller than Hibbing, and they've been told to pay it back right away, and it's a six-figure number for them, so that's kind of not a nice answer to get when
Yeah,
no explanation as to how the DNR botched it as badly as they did, but.
they did.
Hard to believe the DNR would screw something up.
So with that, that's the end of our working session. Everybody have a great night.
Awesome, thank you.
Thanks, everybody who presented.
The